What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of a Stoked podcast. I am Javon O. Stokes. I am your host. I am the writer, artist, and creator of Heat and Strong, and the founder and CEO, or whatever you want to call it, of Visually Stoked Media. Thanks for showing up again for another Thursday night. For those that have been riding with us, you know who I am. For those that don't, I just gave you a really quick introduction. My guest is running just a tad late, and Jamari is out there running the streets. So you just got me for a minute, and that's okay. Um, I want to say thank you guys again. I'm always going to say thank you for tuning in, be it now or later. Um, I know that you guys, a lot of people jump on and check me out on YouTube, and I do appreciate that. I truly do. This is our 62nd episode. And I'm kind of shocked that I've been doing this for 62 weeks or so. Uh, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it this far, and we'll see if we keep going. Couple things. First, in 2 weeks, uh, we will have a show, and Jamari's going to bring on a nice guest, or I am not going to, or we're not going to do a show. It looks like our guest is actually here. So I can see her. She's in the back. I'll bring you on in a second. So if you're listening, just give me a second. We'll do your introduction and get you in. Okay, you can't hear yourself. That's all right. That's okay. Before we go into it, of course, while she's taking care of some technical difficulties, as always, the Heat Wave 2023 tour continues, rolls on. We just did Contropolis a couple of weeks ago, which was great. Got to meet the impeccable Dennis Cohen, Christopher Priest, Scott Hanna, Jason Keith, Lonzo Starr. Got to see a bunch of good, cool people. And we will be at CradleCon on Saturday and Sunday this week coming up in Garden City, New York. So if you're in the area, come through, say hi, get some good comics. And then in 3 weeks, I believe, I'll be at Brooklyn Comic Con. And then the week after that, I'll be at Heroes Con. So I'll be around as always. It's a long tour. It's a very, very, very long tour that I made for myself. Okay, all right. Our guest is here. So we're gonna bring her in, but let me do my nice introduction. Our next guest is is a former SCAD alumni. She has 15 years of experience in the tech industry, specializing in UX and product design with well-known brands like Stanley Black and Decker and Microsoft. Now she's bringing her talents to her own venture. She's created No Rehearsal Labs, where customers can get one-of-a-kind bags and accessories. Let's give a Stoked podcast round of applause to the incredibly talented, the impeccable Stephanie Hasham.
Wow. Right. Hi, Javon.
Hello. How are you?
Such a nice introduction. I was like, is that me? Thank you very much.
I try to make people feel good. You know, you taking your time out to speak with me, and I do appreciate that. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Here in ATL.
You still in Atlanta?
Well, I actually just returned to Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, where'd you go?
I actually was in Seattle for about 4 years. I was there relocated for work. So that's how I ended up at Microsoft. So I ended up in Seattle, and I stuck around there for a good 4 years, which is really nice.
How's Seattle? I've never been.
Yeah, Seattle is a beautiful state. Okay. I like that you laugh, but
I've heard. I've heard. That's all I'm going to say.
I'll just say this. As far as like my life and living, the time that you spend living, Seattle is a gorgeous state. I think that's why it's so quiet. People don't talk about it a lot because it's absolutely beautiful. So you have same actually as a little bit as Georgia, like the East Coast, like where you have the mountains, but you have the water, you have the sound, and it has its very own vibe, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Okay. How'd you handle the rain?
Oh no, I did not handle it well. I did not handle the rain well, but I think that, based on this ecosystem and where where it's located, it was very much a part of, experiencing Washington State.
Yeah, my wife has coworkers who I think either lived there, and they were like, "Oh, you guys got to move out here. You guys got to come out here." And then
Yeah.
they'll talk about how much it rains, and we watch a
The
lot
thing
of
is, it doesn't rain more than other places. Which is
no,
surprisingly, no, it doesn't. So I think when I went and looked at the statistics about that, actually it doesn't rain much. But what it does do, because of where it's located, whether in the valley or in the mountain types, it's mist. It's like this type of misting. It almost feels like a constant mist during the year.
okay,
But it's kind of nice because that's what that cloud actually is what keeps it in a temperate climate. I don't know what you
okay.
say.
Hey,
So
listen, it sounds
sorry for
great.
interrupting you.
No, it's okay. I mean, no, I was just gonna say, like, we watch a lot of like Grey's Anatomy and Station 19, and all those shows take place in Seattle. And I swear, like every other episode is raining, and I'm just like, God, I would go crazy.
Yeah,
But
it
also,
it does
and
affect you.
I'm in New England, and any given
Yeah.
day it can be any given
You're
weather.
almost in the same latitude, longitude, right? Like, so it's about, up there-ish. You could be pushed up a little bit more, but like I think that,
Yeah,
anything within that area is a very interesting climate. Um,
right.
I think it's wonderful for people who love to hike, for people who don't mind being in the element. Um, the trees are just absolutely, massive. I think untouched in many, many places. So I think that is the benefit of living outside of like Seattle, which is the city, versus the
Okay.
suburbs and the areas just like directly around them. It's very picturesque, but I couldn't handle the rain. I'm not gonna pretend that's the case, and I think that it does affect your
Your
your being.
temperament.
And I'm from
Yeah.
the Caribbean, so it's very, very
Yes.
different for me.
Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, is you're from where now? You Jamaican, or
I'm
are you from
No, so
Trinidad?
there's different no, but you mentioned the two largest islands in the Caribbean, and I'm probably from one of the tiniest ones.
Which
That
one?
are in the southern Caribbean, which is Curacao and the Dutch Caribbean. So we have the ABC Islands, which are
Okay.
Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao. So, and what's interesting about them, they're not English-speaking islands at all. Actually, they are previously colonized by the Dutch. So we are still
Oh,
within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And
really?
somehow, yeah, independent, but yet the kingdom, since 2010 especially. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, Aruba even longer, but they're all still part of. So you have Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, Statia, Saba, and Saint Martin, which I think more people know.
Right, right. Okay. All right. I didn't know that. Like, I honestly didn't
Yeah,
know that. I'm surprised I never asked. That's weird. I feel like I would have asked that at some point in one of our conversations. But it's been
yeah,
like 10
yeah. A
years since
couple of
then.
years now.
It's been a
Exactly,
while.
exactly.
Uh, but I'm glad to see you're doing well. It's always nice to talk to SCAD alumni. We've had a couple on the show. Michael Cook has been on the show. Who else has been on the show? A couple other people.
Yeah,
I feel bad.
it's good
Listen,
to
guys, I'm sorry if I didn't remember who was on the show. It's been 62 episodes. Be nice to me, all right? Um,
hear.
but yeah, it's good to talk to you again. So I'll start how I normally start with people, but I always kind of modify the question. Um, when and
Yeah,
where did your love of the arts begin?
I think I've always been a pretty quirky child
Okay.
from a very young age, and I actually came to find this out from my kindergarten teacher. Surprised, it was like years later. I think I came back from college, if she was still there, and I don't know. It was really interesting because I was looking through old boxes when I went back home, and my report card. And my kindergarten teacher had assessed that I was about probably going to be an artist. Either it was kindergarten or second grade, where
Okay.
yeah. And I knew that was really interesting because my mom would she's actually quite an artist, but she doesn't draw as much as she used to. I was always super impressed by her drawings. And she taught me how to use colored pencil, and that's where she kind of introduced me to the concept of light. Like she's like, Steph, light includes every color. So in order for you to get it, you start, she kind of gave me the idea of underpinning, and I think I got a very, very um, intrigued by that. And I believe somebody probably was a little bit worried when we have like these old math books and you have like the coloring book on the outside, where we would have an opportunity, like maybe at the beginning of class, to start filling them in with crayon. And I believe that I think one of those coloring books, I had taken every single crayon and just started filling it in a line at a time with every color, because that's how light works, But since then, I think very young, I really liked to get into things, and I was very curious about how people did stuff.
Okay.
Very curious, yeah.
Okay. Hi, Jamal Flores. It looks like you might be a first time viewer. Welcome to the show. Hope you
Hi.
enjoy it. I don't know, new people. Okay, that's cool. So, did you find one particular art vent, like direction that you wanted to go in, like painting or drawing or sculpture? Like, what grabbed you?
I think that there's, for me, Curacao is a very interesting place. It's very colorful, right? Like, so if you look at it, if you go search curacao.com, you'll see that a lot of these old 16th century colonial time like buildings is like look a lot like Amsterdam, but are extremely colorful.
Okay.
I think that being surrounded by these older structures and stuff like that, I always wondered, like how they put these extremely solid, places together, and like how did they get them to be that color? Like who painted it? So I think that my interest became in how could I emulate that somehow in my surroundings. Um, my interest when I first kind of started, I started sketching and doing little sketches, like I think that we all do. I
Right.
wasn't necessarily focusing on one thing. I'll tell you that. But I started developing more and more interest in the combination of it all, which is more kind of where I ended up. So when I was around like the last year of high school, about 16, I started a television show called Caribbean Teen together with a local TV station. And I think that's where you see where all those interests kind of collided. I
Oh,
had a really great friend that was that liked working on cars, or like I think that in spaces where you don't have a lot of budget, or you don't expect to have the budget to start to work on anything, you become a little bit willing to make something out of what's around you. um
okay.
so it's a little bit sculptural. I think that it was more along the lines of how can I communicate this thing that I'm feeling, whether it's
Okay.
getting people together to paint murals for school, or um, attempting to do it myself, like in my sketchbooks, or dreaming about spaces and how, that would come across. I think that was very much a part of like my personality or character that that was encouraged, I think, a
Okay.
little bit when I was younger. Yeah.
Now, did
That
you
makes
have?
sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Did you have like outside of your mother? Did you have any other like artistic influences, people that guided you, pushed you? Not just like oh my family, but like a art teacher
Oh, big
or
time. I mean, there's so many people that I think across my lifetime that didn't try to satiate that curiosity. I think that the artistic bent comes from both sides of my family, very much so. They're very musical, and they're also very artistic. And um, I know that my grandma used to make, smaller flowers and stuff, like when, just whatever it is that you needed to kind of do to get by. Excuse me, my phone might actually make a sound.
that's okay.
Um, but I think that like, yeah, it came from so many different ways. From being in theater, that was very inspiring because I had teachers that would see, the things that I would be afraid of and allow me
You're
to
not
kind of,
late, Danny. Don't mind Danny.
oh, okay.
He's silly.
Um,
Go ahead.
yeah, the people that kind of allowed you to kind of lean into the things that you were afraid of and not poo-poo things that were just like not that good, like when you start off. And I think
I got
every person in my life that have come across, from my friends, my mentors, teachers, um, just talented people along the way that weren't, that didn't just stand back and allow me to just fade out on myself and worry about what other people think. And I think that's a very big part of like creative. I'm not sure how I can kind of describe a particular person in my life. There are people who are very much influenced where I came from, like my
right.
mom, like especially I think allowing me to kind of just be wild and embarrassing for myself, or for me to kind of go through those motions and get over that part. But uh, I can't pick just one. I mean, I think my family is just an interesting group of people that I'm very, very lucky to be a part of. And yeah, I don't know.
That's
Everyone,
okay. That's all
including
right.
yourself. I mean,
That's all
if I
right.
look, no, but if I look back, right, even during the pandemic, I don't think that there's anything that I could say to say like, wow, this moment, you are out there looking to do something with the comic strong, right? Like you reached out to people. It took courage. It took, dedication. It took a willingness to offer something back up, to do that. I think that thing that you don't say, not the message that was sent, not the not the not that stuff that's in between, but the artwork that was done, that you were willing to kind of be like, yo, this is the story.
Right. I mean, I get
That
it.
I think I don't know how to explain that.
That's okay.
I'm
Nah,
so
you
grateful for just everything and
everybody,
everyone.
everybody. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thanks
I
for
when
not
I
letting me
grew up,
go.
my family encouraged me. I'm probably next to my mother, I'm probably the only artistic person in my
Yeah.
family. And on
Yeah.
my mom's side, my mom's side was, I was probably more artistic there, but on my dad's side was music. Like, as you said, like, everybody on my dad's side family could sing. Actually, most of the people on my mom's side of the family could sing too. So I understand that, allowing me to be, the weird little kid like you, the weird little kid who did art. I
Little
mean,
odd.
most artists, you're a weird little kid. I was a little kid that read comics and drew and, wore my Superman cape or whatever, but that's all right.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That is cool. Um, how did you how did you find your way to scat from
Oh boy.
that? I mean, because that's a long, just seemingly long jump from a tiny island to
Well, no, not
Atlanta
yes
and
and no. Yes and no. I did my undergrad in New York. So I actually did my undergrad degree in New York State at Manhattanville College. My major was in art, and I did a little bit more of a concentration in management and marketing, which was like the minor part. And I went back home. I went back to Curacao. While I was there, I was actually quite um, in a good place. I had come back and I had started an online magazine. I was working for an ad company, which I'm also extremely grateful for. So let me do this as well. Like, so before I came back to SCAD to do advertising, I there was a group of people from this company, like Charles Roth is from like Radius Brand Builders, and Andre Van Hoop, that decided it was all right to give me an opportunity, like to teach me what I needed to know about design, because at that point we were still in the infancy of Adobe and like working on different
right,
technologies that are currently just pretty much available, just with the cloud.
right.
Um, And being on an island where like we didn't even have internet connected to sometimes like the companies that were creating banners, which was an interesting situation as well, is that it wasn't the barrier, it didn't become a barrier.
Right.
And the people that were able to kind of take me in, like Hans Hagen, André van Hoop, Erik Eickhout, which is a Dutch designer also, that after I finished getting some experience from that first, they were able to take me in and like literally sit down and say, Stephanie, this is how you use, but this is why this works, this is why this doesn't work. And I used to actually crawl into their studio in the window.
No, wait,
They
this
would
is
sit
in,
there
where's
in
this now?
Curacao. In
Oh, okay,
Curacao, when
okay.
I went back after undergrad. So, I mean, I would just sit there and be like, well, we're going to either learn something or we're not. So I'm here. And the thing is, like, I think this is around like 2004. So I was looking for, opportunity. They gave me an opportunity to bring, our skills, like as my smaller company, I had a different business partner at the time, to just really see what we can do. I also started a nonprofit organization down there called Suku Design Foundation, which actually
Wow.
was, Suku is the word for sugar, and the reason we posted that, and which kind of was conflicting with the word suku, which is also known as like diabetes or something like that. Suku Design Foundation was the taste that we were born craving. So there's this sweetness, this thing about life that we are born craving as infants. So
Right.
I kind of wanted to really, reflect on that. So it became like this really great feeling group of artists from all over the world, really, that somehow ended up in the States, from Venezuela, from Curacao, from, myself, from the Netherlands, especially because there's a very big Dutch population over there. And we were an interesting crowd as well. So we did events together with organizers that wanted to do what it really did. And I only got to do, I think, like one or two, like on Curacao, before I ended up moving back to Atlanta because life.
Right.
And my mother had since decided to come take an opportunity here. And it was just a time for me to, maybe come over here as well. So when I moved here, it was in the height of the collapse, financial collapse of
Right.
everything. So, I think that's when we were in school together. So
So you were there with your mom.
my mom, my sister, my brother, and Curacao, and they all moved to Atlanta because she had an opportunity here. They were much younger.
Well,
So,
that must be nice. Like you didn't have to like come by yourself.
uh, yes and no.
Sorry,
But
I'm
it was
doing dad
nice.
thing.
Yeah, hi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that it was very nice to have them here. And
Do you
yeah,
feel that
I
helped
needed to
you?
figure out if it helped me. I
Yes. Do
think
you feel like it
push.
helped you, like, not have, because I know a lot of people when they
There's
come.
a lot that happened in between, and I don't think that a lot of things that need to be kind of like be,
No, I know.
out there. But I do think that that was another moment where I connected with people that were extremely pivotal to like this next phase of my life, right?
Right.
So I decided to write that letter. I decided to kind of do this, but I'd met Judy like there, and she was like, "So what are you doing here?" For the advertising, and I said, but I knew what I wanted to be doing here. I think that I sat down and thought about like the idea um, of people, the internet, and like what that world would look like. So I eventually ended up writing my paper as SCAD on the effects of the internet and civic engagement.
Really.
And it's been really interesting to see some of the thoughts of like where I was with using augmented reality as like, a possible advertising uh, uh, venue, I guess you could say, and
Right.
what that could mean for humanity and what we can, how we connect with like how when we give to the community what we receive as feedback in return. So I don't know. I think, of course, yes, it was inspiring. It helped me to get through a very big shift in my life, like having gone back from New York, come back to that, and then making a huge. There's a lot missing in between there. So like if people
That's
have to
okay.
go out
That's
there,
all right. That's
but
okay.
what ended up happening is that I was able to tap into people who were able to have the experiences that I was looking for to kind of bring back home sometimes. In the back of my head, I always thought like, I'm gonna go back home and I want to, you know, show what's
Right.
really going on here. And like these are the skills that we can expand on, etc. So
Okay.
but you end up staying sometimes due to
Yeah.
experience, opportunity, and things that allow you to expand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love
I almost I almost ended up staying in Georgia too.
really,
I yeah, I when I graduated, I came back home to Connecticut. Uh but it was only for like a second. I was like, I'm gonna go back down and try and get a job and everything like that. And I would think I was there for maybe a month, maybe two, and I couldn't even get like a part-time job. Like it was bad. Like oh, I just
yeah.
couldn't do it.
What kind of were you working for creative work?
No, I was looking for everything. Like I was
Yeah.
just trying to find a
That time
reason to
period
stay.
was rough.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really bad. So
That was
I
still like a recovery phase. By the time we were done,
yep.
people were still kind of working their way back out of that.
Yeah. So I had
That
once I
feeling.
had after like maybe a month and a half, I just said I can't, and so I came back home and I got a job like in, in like a week. I was just like, all
Yeah.
right, well I guess I'm here.
Yeah. But energetically, I think that matters too, like that feeling that you get when you come into spaces that just no longer like
Yeah.
it almost tells you, like maybe this is not, for you. But if you fight it, you end up having a harder time with it. Yeah.
I tried to fight it.
Yeah.
I sure enough was
Yeah.
trying to fight not coming back to Connecticut, but it was everything happens for a reason.
It does. It
So
does.
so tell me about your experience at SCAD. Like, did you enjoy it? How did it, did you feel like it was a benefit to you creatively,
Yes.
professionally? Like, just tell me your experiences because we all have different
Y-
ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to consider also the circumstance in which I
Hold on, you have a
understand
little bit
how.
of static. I don't know.
Oh,
You have static. I don't know if it's your headphones or your.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Let me see if it keeps going. Keep talking. I'll let you know if it keeps going.
Okay. I think it's important to
Yeah, it's. I don't know what if it. Are you on a phone?
no, I'm
Oh,
on
okay.
my laptop.
Okay. So that's all right. Go ahead. We should be okay.
No, no, it's not. If it's static, it's
It's
not
just a
okay.
little bit. It's just a little bit.
Are you sure?
It's only when you're talking. You'll talk and it'll sound fine,
Oh,
and
I
then
hear
you'll.
yours too. I hear
Oh,
yours
I got
too.
static
Yeah,
now too.
yeah,
Oh
a
gosh.
little bit.
Oh, let me try and do something. All right.
Let's see. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll work through it. Don't worry about it. Go ahead. Tell me about SCAD. Tell me about your time at SCAD.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So my time as SCAD was interesting, and I want to make sure that there's context to that question, right? Um, it's not that bad. Okay, good.
Thanks,
I think
Phil.
it's important to not, to make sure that there's context. I came there for my graduate degree. I didn't spend
Ah,
4 years at SCAD in my undergrad. I think that my mind, I had actually been working in marketing and advertising before, and I really wanted to be like, wait a minute, like, is this something that I'm doing? You know,
right.
where can I go with this? And I was also with my younger brother very much into like web development and how do we make this work from back home, so you have these ideas, and sometimes the space that you're in wasn't able to provide you with that type of experience or that type of connections with other um, professionals in the
Mm-hmm.
field, right? So for me, SCAD was very intentional after a while, right? Like I was able to somehow have that also by having, by of course enhancing my knowledge, also having a time to better understand what it is that I was engaging in. I mean, advertising varies across the world, like it's the same thing. Word of mouth is still king, no matter what device you're using. On talking to someone is always like, seemingly still extremely valuable.
Right.
But I wanted to understand a little bit more about the effects of internet marketing and humanity and civic engagement. So from the beginning, I kind of came in with that when I was talking to Judy, especially, which I really am really grateful for as well, and also for my other professors. And I'm having like a random like live link blank right now. Sorry,
I
she knows
understand.
who
It's
she is.
okay.
But I think that it was very valuable to me. It also linked me up with my first internships, like in which I worked with Moxie Interactive because of the type of events that they were having for students up there, like out to launch, things like that, where you would show up and kind of, show and meet different companies that were hiring or like just bringing yourself into
Right.
schools to see if they can recruit some fresh talent. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, he was able to give me a really great opportunity as doing my intern there. And was eventually also one of the editors for my thesis that we wrote at the end of the program. And I think that moment really allowed me to meet other designers that are working professionally in the field. So I felt like, okay, this is very unusual. Like, so especially moving to a new city first, right? Like you just
Right.
get
Right.
there, it's very hard to connect with people that are, in your field. I think that if going to school and meeting other students that were already in the profession and wanted to expand on their education was very important types of
Okay.
connections that I made for my career
Yeah, because
and creatively.
I'll say you, from what I can remember, and obviously this has been a long time, but I remember you being really focused. Like, you kind of were like doing your thing. You
Surviving, you mean?
well, I
Surviving.
didn't, but I didn't know what was going on in the background.
Right.
We weren't like really really close. We were like,
No,
I
yeah.
would say hey, we
You're there,
talk for a
classy.
second, right? But you were like really focused and like you're like, all right, I'm here to work, and then I'm out, and then I wouldn't
Yeah,
see you. Like I'd be hanging with the other people, and you'd be gone doing your thing.
yeah.
So
Trying
it's
to
cool to hear that you're doing. That's all right. It's cool to hear that you were doing so much. I wish I had known back then. I would have loved to help.
yeah.
The entrepreneurial stuff that you had going on. I didn't realize you were here. You were there for your graduate. Well, let me
Yeah,
rephrase it. I don't remember you telling me that you were there for your graduate. So you
yeah.
were like, so because I was like, I was the old head at SCAD. Like I was
Oh,
older
you're
than right. I didn't
so was
like there was
I.
yeah, hey, listen, and I was like 25 and people were treating me like I was like 30. I was like,
I know.
guys,
That's
I'm
so
not that.
funny. That's literally what it was. Like, so we were in that same thing. So you come back and you're like, well, listen, how do you make the best out of this situation?
Right.
What resources does this opportunity bring to me? And that's kind of the attitude that I've had. I think that the scariest thing to me, I think about life, living in society in general, is if people lose their imagination. I'm extremely worried about that, right?
Okay.
So there's a part of you that can come up with multiple solutions to one problem besides maybe a math problem, but you know there's a part of you that can choose rationally to kind of deal with different situations by addressing it with different eyes today, or giving yourself a moment. But it requires for you to be able to imagine yourself into in those conversations, in this future that you envision, into the art. And I'm not saying like imagine the end result, but
Right.
in thinking like, okay, we have multiple doors here, like is only one the answer, or can I check and see all of them? And if I'm afraid to check them, why is that? So
Mm-hmm.
that takes you onto a different process. And I feel that a lot of times if people focus from fear, I'll be like, well, I only have one chance, one door, one opportunity time, which in real life and different settings and war or anything else would be a real issue. But if that wasn't the case, like where is that coming from?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you so again, I was doing animation, you were doing marketing,
Advertising.
advertising, excuse me.
Mhm.
That's a totally different track. Um I remember getting like a sneak peek of it. I had a friend of mine who was doing some advertising, and I was like, man, this looks I can do it, like I can do a logo here and there, but like you guys, it's such a different mindset. So can you explain, how do you get in the mindset of like this product needs to be advertised? How do I formulate that, you know, marketing, rollout or whatever terminology you want to use? Like, how do you take, a water bottle and then make, use your creativity to do this, the big marketing campaigns? Like, how do you get from A to B?
Well, I think that um, first of all, there's a very big difference between a logo designer and an advertising design person,
Okay.
right? So
All right.
graphic design and advertising design are similar but very different works, especially like if you want to look at it as far as educational. Graphic design is very focused on, the very skills to create the visuals that it is that you were hoping to portray. And
Mm-hmm.
advertising is more about understanding, a little bit more about like the business, what it is that you are trying to sell, because it's very intentional in that way. And also understanding your market and understanding your client, the human that is about to make a decision between many, many different options
Right.
to choose you. Um, and I think that for me at that time, I had an online magazine, and I also wanted to see what was happening as far as like technology and this idea of bringing something that's usually so digital or still very much one-on-one in person, or very experiential, into the digital space. And I think that the major difference is that you are, let's say this, we are not the end result of what happens. It's what is created to communicate the message. Like graphic design is literally what is created to communicate maybe, some of the ideas that come from understanding and listening to people, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we may have a solution to that problem, which is also why I chose not to really go into hardcore advertising. Other people have went into like, creative direction, directing, and are in amazing places right now, doing Super Bowl ads and, really telling stories in a way that is and that really connects with a person, understands what it is they're looking for when they attach to something that you do every day. Like it could be a brush your teeth, your toothpaste, or something that you're familiar with, and how do you
Mm-hmm.
continue to keep that top of mind, and how do you bring in um, brand new customers with a different life environment, world environment, and
Right. Right.
etc. So it is always interesting, it's ever changing, and I think that's what's interesting about advertising versus, creating just. It's not just ever. These are two completely intricate, different spaces. But especially with graphic design, just being able to understand, like, what visuals and lettering and stuff like that is connecting with the people that
Right.
you're trying to connect with. Yeah,
Okay.
very
So
different.
I was gonna go down. I was gonna talk about something, but because I took a minute this today to look at your website, so I
Okay.
want to talk about you could, because you've already explained how you are literally like, I made this, I was doing this, I was doing this. So you clearly have an entrepreneurial spirit. Um, like
Yeah,
big time. Like like I like you
a
just
little bit
never you
weird.
no, it's not weird. Trust me, it's not
Yeah.
weird at all. My mom was the same. She would, she
Okay.
made a business, and I
I
do the
like
same.
her.
Listen,
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of people don't understand it. I've had these conversations with people who are entrepreneurs, and they're like, everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, and I'm like, no, it's not built. Everybody's not built to do it. Everybody's not built, not that everybody can't do it, but not everybody's built to do it. Because and at least for me, it takes for me, I don't really want to work for nobody else. So, I'm going to do everything in my power to get to the point where I don't work for anybody else. And I think that's usually what separates people who want to be entrepreneurs from people who don't, because there are people who are just fine going in, clocking in, doing their 9 to 5, and then going home and not taking the work with them. Whereas as an entrepreneur, and you're well aware, the work is always there with you. Like there's no separating of church and state. So can we talk about no rehearsal labs? Like I want to talk about no rehearsal labs. Like I saw the website, and I'm gonna show the website right now in a second. Hold
Aw.
on, we can show this fabulous website.
Aw,
Fabulous. I'm using the word fabulous. I'm okay with that.
thank you so
Let
much.
me find it. Yeah, there we go. There we go. We're
So
gonna
that's
share
the
that. Can you see it?
okay.
Can we all see it?
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right. So
I can
this
see it.
this was really great. So how did you get here? Like, you talked about doing advertisement, you talked about doing uh all sorts of different types of creative works, but now you're creating bags and accessories. Like, how did you get from there to here?
Whew. Well, the thing about no rehearsal really has to do with like time, if I tell you the true story about it, the Vivi bag is a very significant bag to me because I have lost a very, very dear friend of mine named Vivica, actually, and the word Vivi has a lot to do with life and living, to Vivi. Um, and I had made a promise because we were going to do a lot of like some of this part together before, our my loss. This is somebody that surprisingly, and like because I think maybe because we grew up in such a small place, um, I knew since we were 5 years old, we came together, we fell apart, but somehow or another, it's like one of those friendships that endured. And I think that what was important to me to do was, first of all, I had to learn how to work with leather. But that's not where it started. I actually really wanted to do furniture, custom furniture. And my friend
Really?
Anthony, yeah, Anthony DeMay, while I was in Curacao, had this amazing garage and was really working on like street legal car racing and understanding fiberglass. And I was like, can I make lamps out of this? Like, how do we do that? And in between that time, that's when we did the nonprofit, and I was working with a lot of different creatives on the island. And I ended up leaving like a very short notice kind of like time, which kind of cut that short. So for me, being here and having lost, let's say, like from New York to Curacao, and it has like a couple of set of tools or spaces to work in, I think leather ended up being the more structural element I could work with that allowed me to kind of be more in like a mold and think about something else and really be intentional about learning how to kind of finish the pieces and um, try something new and also keep a memory alive and also remind yourself that, life is precious and at any moment, you know, it can be taken and what would you want to be caught doing with your time? And it was not easy. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I think that what's made it such a slow start is because it was very sentimental at first. I finally got the trademark for it last week, but like, in the States, at any point somebody's gonna be like, well, we're gonna do that. And it could be named anything at this point for me. But it really, no rehearsal, it has a lot to do with the people I was around, also acknowledging how fragile time is. And I think my favorite quote that I think I posted on my Instagram is, in a world full of daisies, be a wildflower.
Yeah,
And
I like that quote. I do like
yeah,
it. That
yeah, in a world, and and it takes a lot to kind of fight through that, because it's been nice working with these really great brands and learning a lot about processes and design and things that you create impact with, things that you lose, and like you said, I think going back to your question about entrepreneurship, I think there is a slight rebellion to it, yes. But on the other hand, also, like, if you're in the creative space with it, it's also a very big confrontation of whether or not, you create something that people connect with, that they love, or that they are able to, that adds a little bit to that, to your life journey.
no, I get that. I
Yeah.
do. I do get that. There's some
It's
confirmation there.
survival
Oh,
too
it's
in that.
always survival, but
Okay.
but I do get the confirmation. Like part of it, like there are times I think we all had, the imposter syndrome
Yeah.
sometimes where you're like, am I good? Am I a good artist? Like,
Yeah,
because
big time.
you're around your family and your friends so much, and they're gonna tell you, oh, baby, you're great, and
Yeah.
sometimes yeah, the reality is you might not be as good as you think you are. And so I know for me, when somebody buys my book and they tell me they like it, then it's like, okay, so I know what I'm doing here. So I guess I can totally see from your point of view if somebody buys your bag. By the way, the little feature down at the bottom that tells you, oh, this
Oh,
person
cool.
bought
Yeah.
this book in Duluth, Georgia. That's awesome. I'm going to talk to you
Thank
offline on how
you.
to do that from my own website because that's pretty
Okay,
cool.
great. Yeah, I could definitely give you some
That's
feedback
pretty
on that.
cool. But
Yeah, because there's social proof there again. At the end of the day, no matter what we do, it's also people wanting to connect with you. And you
right,
are very much a reflection of, them, or like whatever story it is that maybe they've been waiting to tell.
right.
I wish I could tell myself that sometimes. Like, I have a tendency to freeze, like when I feel like I'm, oh no, like, something went late. Like, I'm like, oh no, like, this is gonna fall apart and I'm not gonna. But it's also, that's that confrontation I'm talking
Right.
about, no matter what. I think that the other confrontation is also with culture and what you want your culture to be or remain. Very competitive, have an expectation of what success looks like. And, if you didn't do 5 gold socks like in a week, then, your stuff is worthless, can't pay the bills, then you don't have a viable business. Now,
Right.
if you don't sell what you want, you sell one sock and you're able to do that, then you have something that is working, that is actually contributing to somebody else's happiness because they're willing to, you know,
Give their hard
contribute
earned
to
money.
the
Yeah.
effort, yeah, and give it to you. So I think that's a really beautiful thing when you're able to find something that allows you to express yourself, but also allows someone else to connect with you at that level. Yeah.
Now, do you handcraft each bag?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
how long does it take to do like a bag?
It depends. So it depends on the design, right? Like, so I think that, well, this bag particularly is printed. Like, so this one is
Okay.
something that you can get. But I want to thank Kevin Bongang Art. Yeah, like this is also a design. Like this one, yes, this is handcrafted. So all my leather pieces primarily are handcrafted. And yeah, they're stitched by hand. They're designed from an older design, that I've had. And I keep making. I made some really cute ones recently. Oh, I didn't bring them next to me right here, but where I'm working with really beautiful holographic suede leather. This is actually one of the first clutches that I made, and I think my aunt had asked before, and she's like, I'm like, but it's all hand crafted
I mean,
leather work.
these are
So anything.
very, very creative. I don't know anything about
So
handbags, but
well,
they're
this one
really
also.
nice.
Well, and the thing is, handbags are not always so unique. Like if you have a sculptural handbag, you'll find like once in a while, like some pieces that are just like, wow, what is that? They're just absolutely gorgeous, but almost very hard to attain, you know? So how do you get a medium between bags that have already been created, but you've created, other people
Right.
can have? They're like, oh, I've always looked for a Japanese melt bag, but maybe leather this time, you know? And that's something that people really like. I love this story actually. I'm gonna post an interview with Kevin that we did last week before I was a little bit under the, just overwhelmed with a few like pieces. And this is when I very first started actually. And you can see how Kevin's artwork has evolved as well over time, but his symbols still remain the same with the birds and the dogs sitting in between.
Now this
And
is a partnership. Now no rehearsal. Is it a
no, no,
partnership
no,
or is it just you?
no, this is just me, myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't? Do you have any like people that help you, like that people that are under you? Like, do you have employees or is it you're
No,
just
not
no?
at the moment.
No? Okay. Wow. So you're hustling. Like you're doing all this like
Yes,
solo.
I
Okay.
do. Right now is the web design. I do a lot. Look, I hate to say solo because I mean, along the lines, you have people who can advise you and
Right.
like
Right.
what to do. Even some clients that come back and they give me feedback about the website. This is loading too slow. If they have it, like those things are extremely important to me at this phase of, no rehearsal.
I mean,
But
this is all
choosing these are, yeah, it's also choosing, like products that I think, for example, especially like if you work with like print on demand, like the prints that I make, that was a piece created by Kevin Bonner for no rehearsal in like 2014, you know? So it's something that I really looked at for a long time and like said, okay, I would like to bring it. This is an illustration I did myself for a series called The Guardians. So I
okay.
create little guardians each time. Like right now, my guardians is this flamingo, so you'll see like a flamingo design appear very soon. But this is also one that I sat and sketched, and I didn't change anything about this drawing. It was a moment in which I felt like I needed a little bit of like covering, and so this guardian arrived.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are all. There's
And
more
this is a
guardians.
very interesting too. This teddy bear is also very much, about, I think it's very trendy right now because I think people feel very disconnected from their instincts because there's so much coming at you at the same time. A lot to, to just absorb or choose not to turn the lights off. Like, but so this is my little teddy, uh, purple sage
Okay.
guardian. Yeah.
I mean, this is really great. Because I don't know anything about fashion. I've been very open
You
with
don't know
people about.
something about fashion. Put
I
your
don't know.
clothes on in the morning.
Listen, I don't. I haven't. I haven't bought a. I'm trying to think of the last piece of clothing I bought for myself. Usually, my wife takes care of that. She'll
But
she'll be like,
fashion, I think
she'll be like,
fashion is,
hey, this sweatsuit I'm wearing. My wife got this for me.
I don't think
She is
fashion
she is
always
very
has
great.
to
I
do
don't.
about buying, right? Like, I think a lot of people relate the idea of like stress and like choosing and overwhelm, like me at the supermarket, like on
Yeah.
purchasing something. But I think that when you look at it as far as like a choice, like, it's not just about comfort, it's also about how you want to show up in the world. Um, and not caring about like how other people see you is interesting, but it also subconsciously says something about how you arrived into this space, right? Like people come in there and they have like one thing they last, you start wondering if that person is okay. It's not a matter of like what their fashion choice was. It was, being clean and being taking a moment or having the time to take a moment. Sometimes we don't have the time. I'm sure like when you have kids, I don't have any, but like you're probably wondering like this is the secondary situation right now in my life. But when in moments where you do put it on, there is something that changes about how you show up, whether it's like jewelry or it could be a haircut, like especially for men, right? Or feeling it. I don't think that um it's meaningless, right? And it has nothing to do with the price of clothes you wear or, what you choose to do. And that's where I think it's been interesting in discovering how to price or value my pieces,
Yeah.
versus also how to show up, with that piece on, like what you're wearing with it. Does it matter? It doesn't have to, but as far as a pluralistic social islands that we do look through, I think
Right.
it's still important to take care of oneself. And fashion, I think, is a accoutrement, like an addition to that, but it still is a choice. If you choose to wear Captain America versus Heat, right? Like it makes a very big difference how you show up in the world. Like
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I don't. I try. I try to figure out how to explain this. When it comes to like buying clothes, I have little patience. So when I go to a store, if I have to go to a store, like I have to be like, all right, I need new jeans now. So I will then go to the simplest place I could go to find jeans, and I'll buy the jeans. But I'm not the type of person that will just go like into a store and just look around and be like, and then try on different things and everything like that.
Bill
So
said, it's
it's
like
like
going
going
on a
around.
mission.
Yeah, you're right. That's fine.
Yeah, I
Shout
mean,
out to
all of it
you
is a
know,
mission. I can, for example, like I like to do Instacart because I get overwhelmed by like labels in supermarkets, right? Same thing, I don't go to the mall that often, but when I do go to boutiques or like to different places, I do like to look at things that say, I'm not thinking about where I can wear that next or anything else, but it's like, oh, that feels like something I can, that I can wear often that really reflects like my aesthetic. And I think that that's how I want to show up in the world. Like it's
but
interesting.
like for
We
me,
are
like I
so
said, for
different.
me,
It's like,
yeah, like for me,
yeah,
like I would never do that. Like I would never go into a store.
never is a tall,
I
long
well, let me
word.
rephrase it. Let me not say never.
Because you haven't been to the
The
wedding or
only time I
something.
only do that, I'll tell you this. The only time I'm like a pretty good like shopper for something is like when it's suits. I like buying suits. Like I like
Then
suits.
what are you talking about then?
But
That's like the
everything else,
haberdashery. So you want to tell me? Okay, okay, okay. Wait a minute. Wait a
but
minute.
no, it's like for everything
This
else,
is not
like
make
casual, like for casual stuff, like
but
casual
casual is
outfit.
casual. But
But
you
I like
talk
suits.
about.
But I was raised in the church,
I'm
so
telling
like I value. I was
you.
raised in the church, so I was in suits a lot when I was a
Okay,
kid. So like
okay,
I can,
good.
but even still, even then, I won't buy like I won't get a suit unless I need a suit. You understand what I'm saying? Like I don't generally buy clothes. Like it'll be like, oh, this T-shirt is ripping. All right, gotta go get a new one. Like it's just replacing something after it's been worn, as
Yeah,
opposed to
so
like my wife will be like,
wanting it, like
she'll look through like Instagram and be like, oh, that looks nice, and then or she'll seek out clothing. I don't seek
that's
out clothing
nice.
unless I need to.
Lucky man.
I'm,
Look at that. Because she's
but I
looking at you,
trust
it's
her
like,
though.
you cannot leave the house like this.
But I do
I
trust her
love that.
because I've given the only thing I'll say is like no pink and no lavender.
Okay, why not?
I
Okay,
don't
well,
really because
interesting. You don't have to answer.
me
Yeah,
and pink, I don't feel like pink works on me. Like it just
okay.
you
Like,
know.
yeah, like you
I
don't
had a
think it
pink
brings
shirt
out
when I
your
was
glow.
No, I had
It
a
doesn't
pink
bring out the
shirt when I was
glow.
younger and it
Yeah,
didn't go well when I wore it. It
I
was like
see. So that would
yeah.
cause a little bit
Yeah, I
of
was like, nah, this
friction.
ain't
Yeah.
for me. I like purple though, but not
Uh,
like lavender, like when it's too light. But I do
okay.
like I like baby blue.
Yeah.
I like I can
Interesting.
yeah, I love baby blue.
Yeah, there's some
But
colors
but
that
I trust her though.
don't reflect your undertones.
Right.
Like, like, so all of a sudden you're looking ashy, and I'm like, sometimes it just looks great,
Yeah,
depending on
like I
what
said,
shirt.
I trust her to be like to come with
Good.
something fly, and then I'll be
Yeah,
like, all right, this is nice, I'll wear this. And like I
I like
very
it.
rarely like combat her on it, like,
Let's thank her for that.
but
Thank
I
goodness for
appreciate it.
that.
But this, like I said, I do appreciate people who do appreciate art, fashion, because it's
Yeah.
something that I have a hard time doing. Like I I can watch a runway show and be like, okay, I don't get it, but it looks creative. Like I
Yeah.
appreciate the creative part of it, but I don't understand like why
Yeah.
this is fashionable and this isn't. It's a
Yeah.
weird, it's a weird thing.
Oh, yeah. I think it's also part of like pop culture, and some places you have the classic, like where people, if you're in like a super swanky establishment with people who've been around a lot of like these older uh big fashion house brands, like
I like this
there
shirt
is an
though.
aesthetic to it.
I do like this
Yeah.
shirt. Is this for women? It looks like it looks like
Yeah,
it's
I think
cut for them. Do you have this for
yeah.
men?
I believe I don't have this one for men, this particular one, but the design, it depends on like the distributor of the t-shirts too, like whether I can print it like that or not.
I'm always looking for a good hoodie too, so I might have to. Do you have this for men?
Yeah, that one,
Okay,
I think
I might
that's
have
a
to.
unisex heavy blend
Okay,
sweater.
I might. Is it
Yeah.
just in black?
I think that one has white and gray
Okay,
as well.
because
Yeah.
I got all my hoodies are dark, so when it's
Yeah.
I can't wear them when it's
Right.
like a little
There's
hot out.
I Yeah, so I'm gonna look at bringing that design over to like this a t-shirt so that it's a little bit lighter for the summer.
I do.
I remember I was out in Seattle, so like a lot of times I'm thinking like a sweater for the evening, like
Oh
very
yeah, I
different.
mean, I'm in Connecticut. You never
Yeah,
know.
you know what
Like
I mean. Yeah, it will
yesterday, I took
just
my
turn on you.
yeah. Yesterday, I took my son to t-ball, and it was a beautiful day out. The sun was shining. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, but it was
Yeah,
cold as all get out. And I was like, I had my hoodie on and a jacket, and I'm like, this
yeah,
doesn't look right. Like so that I understand going up and down in the weather.
yeah.
So you're doing this full time now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm taking an opportunity to see what I can do like that. But I mean, I think for me, it was a really nice start, but like also have to deal with a lot of like the pain points that you have to kind of work through that I haven't had an opportunity to kind of like just say, okay, um, these are the kinks in the process. Like you can kind of work them out and then figure out like what to do next. So I don't have a lot of time for those mistakes. Like, but on the other hand, I do.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the smaller pieces that I'm going to create and the collaborations that I'm having with a lot of really talented people around me who have been providing just amazing like camaraderie, advice,
Awesome.
understanding, and kind of keeping me hopeful through this process, you know?
Well, I
Um,
listen. I understand because
yeah,
I would love to do visually stoked full time,
yeah.
but my child is very accident prone, and we need those
Yeah.
benefits.
Yeah, you need the
So
benefit. No,
we need
that's
the
a reality
benefits.
too.
Yeah.
So these are realities. So like I think that let's call this like more like a sabbatical in which I get an opportunity to, you know, stress test and see what it really takes. And we'll see what happens, as we kind of come through
Are you
the
hustling
other.
on the side at least, doing anything on the side, or is this like we're doing this every day, all day?
I'm doing this every day, all day right now. Yeah. I mean, I think that when you kind of stop working like in corporate for a while, you also kind of need to decompress.
Hmm.
I was extremely lucky last month. Like I, was able to kind of sell all of the pieces that I had available to create, which is really nice. It's not that many, but
Hey, that's
enough,
that's that's great.
But I'm really grateful for every person that was waiting there to say like, yeah, I'm taking a chance on you because they were, yeah. And I was very, very happy to kind of be able to put every last stitch on there. Scared the hell out of me now because, I think that with growing in the type of environments, I'm not sure, like we have, like you're expected almost to make something out of nothing all the time. And so you get very hyper focused on like any little mistake that happens. So you almost feel, um, to me, it feels like you can get into this moment of, oh no, like, what am I going to do? You could freeze
Right.
or you can adapt. And I speak to a really great friend of mine that's still up in Seattle. And it's like, Stephanie, this is what we have to do. We adapt. It's like we adapt, and I'm
Right.
going, what do you mean? Like I'm losing for a minute, you know.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I disappointed these people to the end of the earth. Like, and I'm thinking, no, you didn't. You just have to say,
Right.
hey, this took me longer than expected. Keep it moving, you know. And that's very um, sobering, and also the only way to learn, and the
Right.
only way to expand on, you know, how you what you promise and what you're able to provide,
Right.
and like and still be proud of it as it leaves the door, you know.
But that's why, that's why when I was talking earlier about, not everybody's built for the entrepreneurial life. It's there's so many days where you have to be your own cheerleader.
Oh
Even
boy.
yeah, you don't know what I'm saying. Like there are
Oh
days where
yes,
you
I
have to,
do.
yeah, you have
Oh
to,
yes, I do.
like I mean, I've been doing my thing since about 2015 or so, and there have been times where I'm like, yeah, this ain't working.
Yeah,
Even during COVID was awful for me.
yeah.
You know, I was a couple of times I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing this. But you constantly have to literally like pep talk yourself up and like come
Oh, I know.
on. Or if you have like a bad week or bad, like I do. Do you do events? Do you like, or do you just purely sell from your website?
Right now, yeah, but I'm like now that I have an opportunity to meet and more people, I get to interact with other smaller businesses, different businesses that are like, hey, maybe this is a fit, you know. So I'm slowly, you know, I don't like to kind of put that all out there because it kind of makes it seem like you're already there and you still have to do
Right,
the work to get there. So I don't like to do that. But I have met some really amazing artists, people who do pop-up shops that, you know, that have been like providing opportunities to kind of like um, connect with other vendors and, you know, stuff like that, that I've been extremely grateful for and extremely open to. And I think that it's so important to just embrace those moments and kind of just keep adapting, moving forward, fixing anything, owning up to anything, and just kind of like just look at yourself again and say, all right, what are you going to do? I mean, the reality is, if you can keep your basic things paid, you need that. We need health insurance. We need all those things.
that's right.
Um, I think that it's a logical step to take, and it's worth the risk. I don't think that I will look back at this at any point, whether or not it goes well, or if it goes astronomically well, or if it just kind of stays where it is, as a risk. I feel like it was almost a necessity at this point
Right,
because I think um, after being in the spaces for many years, like you do get a little bit tired, and the world is changing, and it's somewhere that thankfully I've had a great opportunity to kind of, you know, work in. I'm extremely grateful that I do have another skill to fall back on in
right,
case
right,
that I feel that is something that people can use. You can carry it, you can give it to someone else that still kind of, you know, feels valuable and is of a specific um, period in time. Um, and yeah, if need to, like figure out where I fit into that next phase
right,
of my career. So I think that what it's taught me to do is lower my at times, don't get me wrong, this is not all the time, man. Like that my nervous system feels way calmer and is allowing me to make more um
right. No,
less
I get it.
reactive decisions.
I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. I've had that same thing.
Yeah.
Like this, what I'm doing, all of this stuff helps me deal with having a 9 to 5. Like
Yes.
it, it,
That's me. Like,
right.
I mean, I get it. Yeah.
Like I was stressed out before I was doing this. Like I was stressed out, and I was like, once I started doing it, then it was like I felt better, like about life. And this was
Yeah.
when I had a job that I didn't like. And then I found the job that I did like, and then the job that I do like now is a lot more flexible for me to do this even more. So it's like, so I understand like how fulfilling that creative entrepreneurial drive within you can kind of calm you and make you feel, you know, a lot more centered and happy. um like I
So,
know for
what's the
person,
hardest part for you? Like, what is the hardest thing that you had to kind of deal with that said, well, but you still didn't let it go? Like,
the hard to start or to keep going.
to keep going.
um the hardest part, wow. uh the hardest part for me is just having the energy. um
Mm.
it's because it I can't not do this. Like one of the things that I was talking with someone about, I was telling him, I was like, I would absolutely love it if I could just be happy with having a 9 to 5, going to work, make my money, and then come home. And then that's it. Because my life would be simple. Like I would know, okay, if I work this job, then I do this well enough, then I'll go to the next level and then I'll make that much money and then I can do this. Like it's a simple life. And
Interesting.
listen, it's a great life. There's a lot of people I know who have that life and they're happy. But for me, I have to do this. Like I have to do it. Like like it's a gnawing at me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's this thing inside of me. It's this
like
monster.
this. I got
Right.
it.
Like it's
Mhm.
this demon that needs to be fed. And if you don't feed it, and I was actually talking to my other friend about it, and he was talking about like how other musicians, like how they fall into, like musicians and artists, they always fall into depression if they can't do the thing that they feel like they're built to do. And I feel like if I didn't do this and I wasn't feeding that beast, I
Yeah.
would fall into a depression.
Oh yeah. Oh
So I
yeah.
mean,
I
and
get
I
it.
went, I went through that with when after my mother passed. When
Oh
my
yeah.
mother passed, I didn't feel like drawing anymore because she was my biggest cheerleader, and I think I didn't pick up a pencil for like 3 months,
Hmm.
and then suddenly it was like you got to get up and pick up a pencil. And you know what I mean? Like something inside of me that, honest to God, what you know what I mean? Like it's hard
It's
to
so
explain
interesting.
to
Oh
somebody who
no.
doesn't have it, you know?
I don't know, I think it's such an interesting thing. Um, Especially like growing up and you don't realize that there is that difference. Like there is this resignation that comes along with not following your muse, which I think is also like a source, whatever you want to call that. Um, and I think that taking action in it is the only way to kind of recognize and almost show it gratitude for
Right.
keeping you moving through.
I
And
mean, there's
it
a
might be the reason why, like that message or that story, maybe a reason why, the whole butterfly effect, like that one thing turns a different way. And, just listening to, uh, something Tyson, what's his name again? The astro. Why am I
oh,
having this moment with names
I
today?
know Dyson.
No, I'm being
Well,
silly.
I think that, to me that's the difference between like somebody who likes to draw and an artist. Somebody who likes to draw might draw every now and again. They
Yeah,
could literally not draw for weeks, months, years on end and be just fine.
yeah.
An artist like has to do it, or
Yeah, and this is where I think there's the weird philosophical discussion I'm having with myself, which is when people come and ask me like, "I want to know my purpose in life," and I'm like, I'm not sure that exists in my head, right? Like, and it's a really interesting thing, and everybody defines it very differently. I think our very existence, or the fact that we're alive and kicking even right now, is an indicator that you're supposed to be here. And like, there's a part of you that belongs to this world, or, this environment, this existence. And then there's also this part of you that is like can behave like the wind, and then there's a part of you that can behave like, the wall.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
yeah,
you may like, I don't know how to explain it. So, and then there's this part of us that's like, how does this work? Like, but we don't want to make anything that's so useful about it, but there's the wonder of it.
yeah,
It's just so ridiculous important, which brings me back to like, what's the scariest thing to me in society at any point of like inflection, like culturally, if you look around the world, is when people started losing their ability to see a different outcome than what was handed over to you.
yeah, yeah. Right.
That's a
That
scary stuff right
it
there.
is. Well, it's kind of part of the whole AI discussion that's going on, um, and it's this thing where people are kind of devaluing the creators, um, of art, of music, of all the creative process. They're trying to find a way to put a formula to something that to me is inherently, it's part of your soul. Like when you make, I've always felt like whenever I make a piece of art, it could be like a sketch or whatever. That's a part of me that I just put down on a piece of paper, you know? And yes, a computer can mimic what we're doing. You can mimic it, but you're just mimicking. Like it's not a creative thing for you. So when you have AI creating these, you know, decent pieces of artwork, they're not creating it. They're just mimicking something that was already made before. It doesn't exist without what happened before. And so I think a lot of people are trying to devalue the creator without acknowledging the fact that if it wasn't for people who created previously, this AI wouldn't have the ability to make anything.
Okay, so I see it in two ways though. So I think it's important to kind of make sure that that is stated correctly, and I think that you said it exactly the way you meant, which is that people, which is like a general group, are devaluing art because of AI. I think that what's important to also understand is like that this isn't something that came out of, nowhere. And I think that in nature we do have mimicry, and like we also have the um, historical necessity to create systems to replace things that previously would have done would have been done by humans that are now being done by machines, right? So that's one use for it. When it comes down to people pushing the boundaries of any technology, in essence, I don't think that will ever stop in the sense of like um, mimicry, or like people creating something new out of something old. The part that I think is the most important, and which I agree with though, is the fact that it comes from our life force, and it comes from somebody's experiences in this world. And for um, a device or any machine to be able to take ownership of it, and not reciprocate you with any of the evidence of it being used, etc. I think that's a very important thing, but it also is equally mimicking how the United States came to be in the first place, which is, buy low, sell high, don't pay people over here, get something great out of it. It's how our economy works. So in order for it to change, we would have to shift our values, our pluralistic values, into a space that is more caring and is willing to expect from a tool for it to compensate us for the information and data that it's gathering every day, and regurgitating at the benefit of someone else. I was listening into a university talk, and it's like they were talking about how you could create all these beautiful endings You know, they could have films created, they can generate all kinds of movies, we can generate all types of scenery. But I feel that the bigger ethical discussion that we should always be having is first who owns the data, and also who do we talk to. I think the biggest reason why people don't say anything and haven't gotten this far is because there was no entity to discuss whether to regulate or to reflect the willing or knowledge of the public. And I think that we've also really restrained a lot of people who were looking for equity in this space really early on in the conversation from saying these things because it's not beneficial to the bottom line. So I think that as far as creativity, we have a bigger bone to pick. And I think that as artists, they wish they'll try to send you on a track, but they didn't realize, like, up the side of like really wild mountains. Somebody put this meme in my inbox the other day and like didn't realize we were the goats. We are the carriers of creativity, and we will fight for that moment because that we wouldn't be here if we weren't fighting for the ability to tell our stories. And hopefully we won't be censored, and hopefully we won't be also expected to take on sides that are not kind and also not
Yeah, it's
for the benefit of humanity.
and I think, and unfortunately, until it gets regulated and until people get compensated, like you said, it's going to be a problem. We'll see. I mean, the music industry was able to. I always liken it to Napster and all those.
Yeah,
They were the music
yes,
industry was able to regulate that and get people paid to a degree, even though that's still kind of an issue. People were able to regulate that. I think eventually, somehow, some way, there's going to be a flashpoint. There's going to be something that's going to happen that's going to make whoever needs to begin the process of, okay, how do we regulate this? How do we get it so that if it copies my art, if part of the data is of this is to copy my art, then that person needs to somehow, I need to
well,
be getting paid. I don't know
I
how, I don't know when, but I it's almost
they
inevitable.
are. I think that they are in conversation. I think Getty and we just started like a whole discussion about this, and I think that Adobe Firefly and all this have been really interested and relatively transparent about like watermarking their stuff and also using only open source uh and I guess like like images to generate what it is
Right.
that they're able to generate. So I think that that is a big start when companies decide to make the correct or ethical decision whether or not they're doing the right thing or not. But I happen to like the leadership and the equity and inclusion group like right now in the sense of um being vocal and like what it is that they're talking about and what it is they're thinking about as far as like equity, because don't forget also within this larger percentage of people and creators in the world, there are also, creators of color, BIPOC, that are in a smaller group, whether or not they'll be very um, talented or not. And I don't want us to kind of be left out of
Oh yeah,
this discussion. So I
absolutely.
think that there are people in that space, believe it like that, are fighting for it. However, we should be reskilling and re-educating on the language that is going to change very quickly and exponentially
Oh
fast
yeah.
in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we unfortunately, the change is going to happen. The
There,
change is going to come.
Phil, thank you so much for saying
Yeah,
that
Neil
because
deGrasse.
you know
Yeah,
how like sometimes you're in a conversation and then that's
yeah.
when
I
I
called
always
him
like lose
Dyson.
everybody.
I just combined his names. Yeah, I don't know.
Dyson. Well, that's what we do. We come
Okay.
up with new stuff from old stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I don't want to hold you forever. So before
Okay.
we leave, is there anything you want to promote? Anything you want to tell people? Let them know where you're going to be, what you're selling, anything?
Yeah. Actually, thank you first of all,
Oh, of course.
Javon. It's I went before I came on with you. Like I was looking and I was looking at all the people you've spoken to and how nice it was to connect. Over the years, I think I've saw some of the comic books that you did, and like here I am in a completely different phase. it's nice to reconnect, and I appreciate you, wanting to have a chat with me. I find myself extremely awkward usually, like on these things, and but I'm in a great space. So as far as
Good.
promotion, no rehearsal. I'm releasing again in the next month, so May, June. A few of my mini bags, a few other hand crafted items, but I really, really would like, and this is why I put these items there, is your support to take a look at Bangang art, also take a look at, like, the pieces that we have, which we'll expand on in like up to 3 colorways throughout the summer, and grab one of those, because any purchase of those items, goes to myself, and also like a small piece, like, will go back to an artist. And I believe that no X Labs is going to continue to do that. So I look forward to kind of working with other people who might want to do a different pattern together with no rehearsal. And also outside of the ones that are printed, and I would love to be able to provide like a vegetable tan, like, clear piece that I will put into place after you create something beautiful on it. So yeah, my name is Stephanie. I am the owner and creative director of No Rehearsal Labs, and you can find us at norehearsal.co. And I'm super happy to have joined you today, Javon,
Oh yeah.
Visually Stoked.
I want to do a design on it. I gotta figure out. We gotta talk. I want to put some design on your stuff. I gotta do something.
Okay, yeah,
We'll
let's see
talk.
what we got.
All right. Well, thank you for joining again. I appreciate it. It was great to catch up. Hopefully, I can catch up next time I'm in Atlanta. Who the hell knows when that's going to
Yeah,
be? I
absolutely.
might
Bring the
be
whole
there.
fam. I want to meet everybody so
Yeah,
we can, like, yeah.
absolutely. I might be there in July. Maybe. I don't know yet. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see where my tour takes me. Thank you,
yeah.
everybody, for joining. Of course, you can see the website below. Go get a bag. Go get a shirt.
Thank
Support.
you.
Support a person of color who's trying to do something great. And as always, next. Oh, I lost her. Did she go out? Did she go back in? Are you there? She's gone. All right. Next week we had Natasha Harris. Let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. Natasha Harris, who is another a person minority, Black woman business owner. So feel free to jump in and stop by next Thursday, and maybe Jamar will be here. Who the hell knows? As always, you can find my stuff at visuallystoked.com right there. And if you're in any of these particular cons, come by and see me, say hi, buy a comic, support, and I'd love to talk to you. So thank you again, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Stoke Podcast, Creative Talk with Creative People. Take care.